NSSE is more than a survey. And I've always seen it that way. From the time that I used NSSE data as a practitioner, from the times that I was doing research around how NSSE data were used, I always seen it as more than just a survey. I don't know if everybody else has. And the times where I was able to leverage those data, to leverage the knowledge and insight that's come from NSSE has been when I've thought about it in that expansive way. And so we're excited to both rethink our own work and re-engage the post-secondary community as more than just a survey. When I think about experiences that really inform my work today, I think two that come to mind are being a student and being a practitioner. Being a student shapes so much of the work that I do here at NSSE because I remember what my successes and excitements were. I also remember what my challenges and obstacles were. And as we seek to capture what's happening in students' lives, we try to be sensitive to all of those things, that range of possibilities. I also think about my experience as a practitioner because when I was wanting to work really hard to advocate for students so that they wouldn't have as many challenges as perhaps others have had, being close to that work helps me understand what type of data are useful and what type of support are necessary for people to best advocate for students in their day-to-day lives.
It's just a fresh perspective on data use and how to think more complexly about how to get data into the hands of people who can make a real difference on campus. To me, that's the most exciting angle that he brings to this work.
One of the things that I think has been most important in our work over the course of this year has been the focus on relationships. Some points of pride outside of all of the technical things, outside of all of the wonderful accomplishments that our staff have, is that we've been able to, one, develop stronger relationships within NSSE, so getting to know all of my colleagues has been great, but also develop really important and strategic relationships outside of NSSE, thinking about other intermediary organizations and entities who are deeply committed to higher education. Us being able to partner with them means that we can work together more collaboratively and have stronger ties to be able to move the post-secondary landscape forward.
NSSE Forward as a concept is really important for us to think about. And to me, what it means is thinking about how this next phase of student engagement research can be much more responsive to what higher education needs right now and the evolving nature of data and information in institutional decision making, and also how the student body has changed, and dare I say, how faculty have changed.
NSSE has always been about what students do that lead to their success. We've always paid attention to, what students' behaviors are, and we know that what students do matter. I don't want to lose that, but I also know the research says, and people across the post-secondary landscape will, weigh in, is that what also is important is how students feel and what their hopes and dreams are. And so I'm excited to build on the long legacy that we have at NSSE of focusing on students' behaviors and also consider other dimensions of the student experience.
I think there's a real transformation going on in higher education right now, and NSSE Forward has to be able to pick up on those pieces that involve both how we measure and study student engagement through a variety of data forms. Some of the data that we're collecting that is through swipe card access and other information about where students are and what they're doing and what their behaviors are can be supplemented by a survey like NSSE.
I think one of the things that NSSE staff and I, as we've been kind of collaborating over the last year to rethink and reimagine how we can be good contributors to the college experience in the U.S. and beyond, because we have partners or campuses in other countries as well. As we've been thinking about that, one of the things that comes to mind is how can we be best partners with campuses to improve their post-secondary offerings. And so when I think about the future of NSSE, I think about partnership, I think about change and the ways that we can support campuses in using data to enact change.
The most important thing that I think NSSE Forward represents are new opportunities to capture student voice and make sure that student voice is incorporated into institutional decision making. To me, that's probably the number one goal of NSSE Forward, but the companion with that is that information has to be treated with respect, it has to be valued, and it really has to help an institution change what it does and transform the institution to make it a better place for all students to learn.
So first and foremost, people, including myself, before stepping into this NSSE director role, assume that NSSE didn't change, because it's been so stable in the post-secondary landscape over the last 24, now 25 years. What I learned when I got deep into the weeds is that NSSE is always changing. One example, and one that I'm super excited about in the story that I tell all the time, are the ways that we're thinking not just about what we capture from students' experiences, but also how we capture who students are. And so changes that have been made in our demographic items and changes to the ways we think about capturing demographics, more specifically changing response options, moving from select one to select all that apply, have allowed us to have more nuanced, detailed, and authentic representation of students and students' data. One of the things that has been particularly important for us is reorganizing internally to make sure that we're using our human resources and our financial resources and all of the other capital we have access to make sure that we are supporting campuses and doing their best at using data. So one example of that is our reinvestment in the NSSE Institute, led by our Associate Director, Dr. Jillian Kinzie, where we have a number of staff and a number of new ideas to help campuses not just use data, but build capacity to use data in the ways they need to improve the student experience.
The NSSE Institute has always been the service and outreach and research arm of the National Survey of Student Engagement projects, or the whole enterprise. And the chief kind of demonstration of what the NSSE Institute was really about is the way we have tried to collect and study and document what institutions have done with their student engagement data, what changes they've made, how they went about doing it, what the model is for action on data. And all of that has been done both in service to the project, so we better understand what's working and what isn't working, and also to assure that the field has a repository of instructional resources and documentation of what it does with data.
NSSE's been around and we're gonna stay around. And I think that my job here and what excites me about this work is figuring out how we can be different in the future than we have in the past, because we know higher education is different now than it was yesterday. We know students are different every day. And so keeping tabs on NSSE means keeping tabs on the ways that we're changing and evolving to meet the needs that those campuses are gonna have as their students continue to change and evolve.